Bullying. Lots of talk of bullying these days, eh? Have you experienced bullying? Do you know people who have experienced bullying? Recently, I got a call from my 6-year-old granddaughter. 6 years old. And she told me about a story on the playground. She was on a slide. She was at the top of the slide, and she was afraid to go down. Have you ever been on the slide? Do you remember being on the slide as a kid? Were you afraid to go down? I got afraid to go down the slide. Some know. I was afraid. And there were times when I'd stand up there and look down. And my granddaughter was relaying this story to me, how she was at the top of the slide, and she was trying to gather up her courage to go down. And this one older child came up and said, "Go down. Go down." Have you ever had anybody try to tell you to do something you're not quite ready to do? Hey, does that make you want to go, okay? No, it shrinks back in fear a little bit, so she got scared. And so what this little kid did was push her off the top of the slide. Broke her collarbone. Nana was furious. Nana was about to jump through the phone line and go find that big kid and throttle him. That is until, of course, my wife grabbed me by the heels through the phone line and said, "No, no, 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 no." In case you were wondering, yes, I am. And she got me to think about a time when I was a child on the playground. And when I experienced my first time bullying. And I wasn't much a different age than her. Actually, I was younger than her. I wasn't even 6 yet. It was a week before my 6th birthday, November 5th. Yes, my birthday's November 12th. And it was a Sunday. And I was playing on the playground with the other children. And it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day for me because before I went out, my mother was zipping up my shirt. And as she zipped up my shirt, I looked down at her and I said, "Mom, can I have a friend over to play today?" My mom hesitated. And she said, "Yes." And I was ecstatic because I couldn't normally have friends over to play. And that day I was so excited. We lived on we had 2 stories to our house. The bedrooms were upstairs and the kitchen floor was downstairs. So when Mom was doing up my jacket, I was upstairs in my bedroom. And believe me, when she said yes, I was almost like an eagle flying out of my house, down after that fish down the stairs, and out the door I was about to go. But on my way out, I spotted a can of Coke on the kitchen counter. I was 5. I was not allowed to have Coke. And I picked it up gingerly and shook it. Just over half. Pretty certain I can get away with a sip without asking. Too much. And out the door I ran. And I was going to play with my best friend, Bobby. Bobby and I had been best friends for 6 whole weeks. I'd never had a best friend before, let alone for 6 weeks. And we got out onto the playground and we played for hours. And I brought Bobby home to my house for lunch. And I said, "Come on, Bobby, let's go. We're going for lunch." And I went flying okay, who am I kidding? I'm not that graceful. Bobby and I marched home, and as I ran in the front door to introduce my best friend to my mom, I yelled, "Hi, Mom, and bam! When I walked in the front door, I was greeted with my father's fist against my cheek with the Coke can. "You ask, then you take." And he had me by the scruff of the neck, and he threw me backwards. And I stumbled backwards into Bobby. And I tried to get my balance, and I was getting my balance. I turned, and I saw the look in Bobby's eyes. very similar to a look that's in your eyes right now. A look of shock, potentially fear. And before I could tell Bobby that it was okay, I was just being disciplined for not asking for permission. She was gone. She was gone. She didn't stay for lunch. I sat down at the kitchen table and my mom put my peanut buttered sandwich down. And she sat down with me and I asked her, "Why didn't you stop him?" She said, "I deserved it." Do you think I deserved it? I went back out onto that playground after lunch, hoping to find Bobby, hoping that she would be there and I could tell her that I was okay. And she was. And I went to go running up to her, and she was with the other group of people, and I was about to say, "Bobby, Bobby." And she said, "Hey, Karen." And all the other kids got quiet. She lifted up a can of Coke and said, "Want some?" If you would have been with me at that moment, you would have heard the sound of my little heart breaking. You would have seen the tears well up in my eyes. But what I did at that next moment would change the trajectory of my life. And I reached up and I hauled off and I punched her in the nose. And I broke her nose. Yes. And all the other kids did what you did just now. And they dispersed. They ran. Bobby ran home to tell her mom. The kids went home to tell their mom. And before I got home, I was labeled the bully. Monday morning on the school ground, I was forever known as the bully. Parents wouldn't let their children play with me. Children became afraid of me, and teachers despised having me in their class for that one action. W.H. Auden says in a poem from 1939, "I and the public know what all school children learn. To whom great evil is done, do great evil in return." In that moment, I jumped on the merry-go-round of violence. And I soon learned that being a bully was where I had my power. And the worse things came at home, the meaner I got on the playground. The meaner I got on the playground, the more isolated I got from my community, and I wore that label for 10 years, unable to shake it. And as a matter of fact, I carried that label much into my adulthood. Did I deserve it? We now dedicate a full week to Bully Awareness Week. I am here by no means to condone my actions or the actions of the bullies. But what I'm here to do is ask you, when you see a bully or when you hear about the bully, I would ask you to consider to whom great evil has done.